Paul from Derivan, and today we're going to do a triptych. That's a painting that's painted on 3 panels. So we're just going to do a simple landscape that all of you can have a try at. So first thing we're going to do is draw it in with a little bit of paint, and then we're going to paint it in. So let's have a go. Okay, so we've got 2 images today, and I'm just going to talk a little bit first about design and composition, and then we're going to pick one of them to transfer to our triptych. So if we have a look at this first one, just a simple river scene, but it's very important with paintings like this. Although they're simple, they can become quite boring. If we eliminate these interruptions in the picture, it becomes flat and boring. And if we make this hill too even to the horizon, it becomes flat and boring. So it's important to remember that when we have these very strong horizontal marks in a painting, that each of these areas are not parallel to each other. So moving on, if we have a look at this one, we've got several lines, and again they're not parallel. So today I've chosen to pick this one, and we're going to do it as a triptych, and then you'll see once it's finished that we're going to break it up, and we'll end up with 3 individual paintings that together make the one scene. So we get started by just drawing it in with paint. Alright, so let's get started. So what we do first is draw the painting up in paint, and today I'm just going to use a blue. It doesn't really matter what colour you use, just pick a colour, draw it in. Don't overthink things too much. We're here to paint. So as we draw this in, it's important just to note that we just need big, broad shapes. No details at this stage at all. Now that we've got that drawn in, it's time to add the colour. So I've got a very full palette today. I've got the traditional 2 reds, 2 yellows, 2 blues, which is your primaries. So a cool and a warm of each. But then I've got an additional magenta, orange, 2 greens, a purple, and a couple of earth colours here. So let's get to it. So I've just started here with some blue and magenta for those hills, and dropping into a little bit of grey for that first tree. Linus interruptus. Notice how I've interrupted that first line of tree with the little hill, with the little tree. So we drop in some tree shapes in the front here, and making sure that our hills in the background are a lighter tone to all of that that's in the front. Make sure that the hill isn't all the one colour. See how we just change it gently as we go? So it's not the same blue. We need it to have interest for the viewer, just to take us there through the painting. So once we've got that in position, we're going to start on a bit of the foreground. Now, I don't want it the same across the whole painting. So this side we're doing warm, and across to a green paddock on the other side. So we're starting with sort of dry grass here, and heading across to the other side with some more watered grass, if you like. So it's going from quite fertile across to a dry paddock. We don't want this central section being all flat and all of the one colour. So we need to just drop that in broadly. Don't pop any great detail yet, just suggestions of shapes at this stage. We're going to come back and tidy up the actual shape. Once we've got that established, we can then drop into the sky. So with the sky, again, just make sure that we're always changing the colour. So I've started with a light mauvey sort of blue, and now we're going to head across to a quite clear blue on the other side, so that one corner of the canvas isn't the same as the other. So play gently with the sky and softly blend one form of paint into the next one as you go along. Don't overthink it, but just make sure it changes. Drop in the clouds, adding a bit of warmth that we've picked up from the colours in the ground in the front. So once we've got the clouds there, if we need to adjust the edge of the hills or any other shapes, we can do that at this point. Again, we don't want flat pieces. Coming through the front now, we just add those suggestions of details and tidy up some of the tree shapes. just to take the eye through there. And up on the hill on the right hand side, I think we might just pop a road through there, just coming down. So if we add a tiny bit, yeah, just through here. So it just helps to take the view, it just breaks up those expanses of blank areas. So that takes us through most of the painting. I hope you've enjoyed watching that. We just need to fiddle. Take a few moments to step back at this point and just look at what's happening and how much detail you've popped in. You may or may not need it. Just remember, interrupt foreground to midground, midground to background, with shapes, with lines and with colour. So there we have it. There's our painting complete. You can still play on little areas. Now, the areas to play on would be where these lines meet each other. Remember earlier I was mentioning where we linus interruptus, wherever we can break those edges and make things integrate with the next surface down, the better it'll be. But really, there's enough on there to tell our story. So I hope you've enjoyed that. And our last thing to do is move them aside and see what three we have. So each will exist on their own or together.